change is going to be uncomfortable. Like you will feel uncomfortable, and this is a perfect environment to feel uncomfortable because we build off of supporting each other in times of vulnerability. Communication is key. You want to communicate with your group members, you want to communicate with leaders, and you have to, if you're going to be here, you have to really want to be here and be truly ready to quit. Because if you're not, it's going to be even more of a challenge and a setback for you than, trying to do it half-heartedly. So,
All right, Ben. Well, congratulations on graduating from Revive Your Life. Super proud of you. And you're the first person to ever graduate. You're our very first graduate. And so it's kind of a high honor there. You're a trend setter, a precedent setter, and more have come after you. And so you've been able to help so many people already. Now that you're a group leader in Revive. And so we just wanted to connect about what Revive has been like for you and what life is going to look like going forward. So, the first question I just wanted to ask is simply this: can you describe what life looked like before starting the program?
yeah, so thanks, thanks for having me on here tonight and getting to share my story. And yeah, so before Revive Recovery, my life had been a many years of addiction to pornography and masturbation as a way to fill a void in my life. There was something missing. And as I learned in the program, there was a problem, and porn wasn't necessarily the problem. The problem was there was things missing in my life, just needs not being met and the inability to properly cope with emotions and situations going on in my life. So I had turned to pornography as a source of comfort and a source of intimacy that I, didn't have in my life in a healthy way. So I developed a strong connection with using pornography as a way to feel a sense of satisfaction and continuous source. It was constant. It was always there. So I could, it was something I could depend on. However, this relationship with pornography turned into something that really drained me of my true sense of self. It drained me of my vitality. It drained me of my ability to interact with other people in a healthy, authentic way. It drove me away from my relationship with God and just left me feeling extremely empty and susceptible to jumping into unhealthy, toxic relationships and giving like my whole self to relationships that serve me or, the other person in the relationship, really no true intimacy or sense of connection. So, my life before this addiction was just before this recovery program, was just a very empty, sad, connection between a man and an artificial sense of intimacy.
Mm-hmm. So you decided to join the program. Was there like what was the motivation for you? Was there like a moment of realization? Was there a breaking point? Like why join Revive?
Yeah, so what got me to the point of wanting to join Revive Recovery is I had tried quitting porn a few times on my own, on some other programs that weren't as in depth. And, I always just felt the more I pushed away from pornography and masturbation, just the more motivated and authentic I felt as a person. And I really liked that feeling. I'd made it about, several months on another program, and throughout the years I'd quit for weeks or, a month or two, and was never able to just keep the momentum going. And, I was trying to do it on my own, which I've learned is very, very difficult to do. You can only get so far on your own without having accountability, where it doesn't work out. So I had gotten tired of falling back to the addiction after bouts of abstinence from pornography and masturbation, and just got really wanted help. I started kind of reading books, and I reached out to you, Brant, as a trusted friend in Christ and a pastor, and a great mentor of men in this situation. And you motivated me, and your program sounded awesome, and I know you put your whole self into things you do, and I thought it was a great opportunity to make it past my last milestone, and where I'd hopefully have a sense of community and accountability, which I found.
So before joining the program, how would you describe the way that porn impacted your relationships, your self-worth, even your relationship with God?
Yeah. So before recovery, how porn affected my relationships, my sense of self, and my relationship with God is in relationships, with my guy friends, I it didn't really affect me that much. I it just didn't really affect me that much. I never really talked about pornography with many of my friends. I brought it up from time to time where I'd say like, I gotta quit watching porn, and it was no big deal. And I'd have a guy friend be like, "Oh yeah, like don't we all?" So it was something I could in my relationships with guy friends was a not that big of a thing. However, with females in my life, having a great mom and a sister who I'm extremely close with, the way porn had me looking at women, was in a degrading way, and a way that pleased myself off of a woman's degradation and expression of self, to some extent in a
Yeah.
way that makes her money or gives her a sense of, fulfill attention from others, so to speak.
Mhm.
But being exposed to that all the time, it narrowed my mind and narrowed my focus, and I was more focused on, women as objects than women as like sisters and mothers and friends and, family. So,
Yeah.
I did my best. I try to be a good guy. I was raised by a great mother and had a sister, and try to treat women as respectfully as possible. But, when you're watching pornography all the time, I was watching pornography all the time, and I'm around women, it's difficult. It was difficult for me to have the integrity and to not feel shame, because I know I'd be having a conversation with a woman, and then, later that night, it's like I'd go watch pornography. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's hard to be around people and then in the porn environment, and for like your thoughts, it's the same brain. So
Right.
it makes it difficult to have integrity and authenticity, and treat women, the way that you'd want to treat any human being, with respect. And then with my relationship with God, it was very difficult. I've been deep in the Bible for a long time during my pornography addiction as well. And I'd read the words in the Bible, and I'd pray to Jesus. And the words in the Bible, they depict, and like it's so clear that Jesus knows our hearts so well, and the way our mind works, and how it's easy to become a victim to adversary and lust and adulterous behavior.
Yeah.
And when you're living that kind of lifestyle through pornography and giving yourself, your spiritual best self to pornography, it's the words in the Bible, they hit differently. It's like they induced shame in me, and I had a strong feeling of shame in my relationship with Jesus and unworthiness,
Mhm.
where I'm like, okay, like you know me so well, and you're telling me these things because you love me and know how my brain and heart work, and you know I can break through this. However, I'm not making the effort. And as I read the Bible and the words were there in front of me, and I prayed to God, and I continually saw myself making the same mistakes, it just drew a sense of staleness in my relationship with Christ. To
Hmm.
which is my own fault, honestly, because I wasn't making the proper effort to change at the time. So yeah, it took it took a lot of the meaning out of my relationship with Jesus.
Mhm.
Acting on what Jesus wants me to do and connecting with Jesus is, it brings the word to life and it brings meaning to the relationship. But
Yeah.
when I'm, continually making the wrong choice and trying to have a relationship with, with God, it doesn't, it's painful.
Yeah. What were some of the lies that you wound up believing about yourself um, before starting this journey?
I believed, I believed I was unworthy of a healthy functional relationship. I
Hmm.
believe that I was unworthy of even calling myself a Christian. And I believe that I probably would never escape the full shame of my sinful nature. I could break free from pornography probably, like physically, but I would not be able to say like I have completely forgiven myself and I know the Lord forgives me, but I've broken through the addiction physically, but I just I don't feel like I've gotten to where I'm meant to be, so
Hmm.
to speak.
Yeah. When you jumped into Revive and you started going through the program, watching the modules, doing the homework, connecting with the coaches, connecting with your accountability group and your AG leader, doing the Revive challenges, doing all the reading, all that goes into the program. What part of the program was most helpful or transformational for you?
That's a great question. I want to say, and that's a tough one. Like the modules really required me to do some like deep picking in my brain and reflecting on my thoughts and past experiences. And that's something I've done a little bit of in my life prior. So that was it's extremely beneficial. I feel like the behavior changes through fasting and detoxing from social media, were I want to say that that was probably more beneficial for me than the reading by like a very small margin.
Mhm.
I some of these readings blew my mind and literally have made me take a stance against pornography, like on a deep kind of ethical level that I didn't really even have the capacity of before this or understanding of before this program. But physically, like changing my surroundings and modifying my routines, like my nighttime routine, my morning routine, practicing fasts, and just like exhibiting control over my surroundings and behaviors and areas that I can see changing and know that I can adapt to be a better version of myself in a lot of other areas in my life that I haven't put that much focus on. And if I can see myself doing these things and truly feel a sense of freedom, like yeah, I can definitely apply that to the pornography issue.
Hmm. I love that. How did the community and your accountability group influence your journey?
It influenced my journey profoundly. I having other guys who I can relate to who are going through this battle where I know we're all doing it every day and we're checking in every day. It's it just makes me feel a lot less alone. I mean, I used to read threads and Reddits and blogs of guys who were all battling this. And it was nice to be able to read some of that stuff. However, it wasn't very personal because there's people from all around the world. They don't have pictures, never talk to them. However, like being able to meet with a group of guys online on a set basis where you're seeing these people, you get to talk to them, hear their stories, and see what they're posting every day. It keeps the the battle energy alive. You know, it reminds us that we're all in this together. We can reach out to these people. Like if I'm having a bad day, I can pick up my phone and call any one of the guys in this program and be like, "Hey man, I need someone to vent to today. Like I'm really struggling," and vice versa. Like somebody can reach out to me. And knowing that we have each other, you know, a call away, a message away on here, and we've seen each other progress and go through ups and downs, like you know, and the door's always open. It's just like a very, very welcoming environment where we're all on the same page and we're all doing this together. And we've invested a lot of our time, our energy, and you know, even money into. So it's like, you know, it's a brotherhood. It's like I wouldn't say like a job for all of us, but it's like, you know, it's being taken very seriously by everybody, and I love to see that.
Yeah, I love that. What as you think back over some of the mental shifts that you've undergone even in this program from when you started to where you are now, what are some of those mental shifts that have been a significant part of your healing?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one for me is just that I am never going to be able to let go of this. And I can't believe like, you know, I had urges before and I was even focusing on this today that like would knock me off of my feet and I would, you know, I'd fall off the log into the water, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
like for sure. And you know, I've just over the last year, you know, I've experienced cravings that are just like I know would have knocked me off of my you know, that would have set me back in the past.
Yeah.
And I can handle these now. You know, I've this program's for has allowed me to observe my past relapses and slip ups and depict like where I was, what was going on in my mind. And you know, it's the mind shift that you know, really is just the awareness that I have of my behaviors and my past thought processes and patterns that, you know, have occurred in my behaviors. And being aware of these things has, you know, made me see that, like, you know, I've fought through some of my darkest nights in this program, and I know about how to gauge my cravings and how to you know, to know that I can make it through these. Another big shift I've had as well is just my in my relationship and awareness of the presence and impact that Jesus has in my life. My relationship with Jesus has tremendously increased and has gained a lot more meaning as I follow his word and see the actions
Yeah.
taking place in my life that you know, he set in stone for me, you know, so long, you know, before, you know, since the beginning of time that you know, I see him being fulfilled in my life now, and there's you know, a sense of intimacy through my relationship with Christ that's on a, you know, a truth and faith and accountability basis that has really opened my eyes and my heart to you know, the things that Jesus has in store for my life.
Hmm. That's huge. Um, when it comes to actions that you've taken that are significant differences now in your life, habits that are in place, actions, what are some of the ones that have the biggest impact on your freedom?
Yeah, so you know, you say they have an impact on my freedom, like in creating freedom in my life,
Yeah,
or
or sustaining freedom in your life. Yeah, something in that realm.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, one of the biggest things in this program that has created freedom in my life is the is having the accountability of having my website history sent to, well, to you, Brant. You know, I know
Yeah.
everything I look at is going to be, you know, I have a second pair of eyes on everything, and it holds me accountable. Also that I have a password set on my what I can view on my computer and my cell phone. And you know, it makes it so I don't have to worry. I can't watch porn. You know, even when I have cravings and I want to, I just like have this sense of relief where it's like, oh yeah, like I can't. And that just part of the you know, part of the freedom. I mean, I've had to, it's part of the battle. I can't watch porn on my devices, even if I want to. However, that doesn't dissolve the cravings and the reasons why I'd want to watch it. But just knowing that, when I'm feeling that way, having the security of knowing that
Yeah.
I have to go find, I got to find something else to do. I got to go, indulge in one of my hobbies or pick up a book or pray or cook or journal or, just do something else. And that's created a lot of forward momentum in my life and yeah, definitely freedom.
That's great. Um, what have you learned about yourself in this process?
Yeah, I've learned a lot about my mental health. Before I started this program, I struggled with mental health and just depression, anxiety, and I wasn't clear on how pornography was, my addiction was playing a role into my mental health because I was never able to see or observe my thoughts and my emotions and my overall mental well-being aside from a pornography addiction. So, being a year sober from pornography and masturbation, has allowed me to like really see what's going on in my brain. I
Mm.
attributed a lot of my mental, the state of my mental well-being to my pornography and masturbation addiction. And I see a calmer guy, like I know myself to be a calmer guy than I gave myself credit for, a less reactive guy, a less hopeless guy. And there's still days where I feel down like we all do. But I've like very, very by the grace of God, I've been like able to understand what's going on in my head and my emotions a lot clearer, um from being in a healthy place. Because this program gives you the opportunity to become the best version of yourself, create the best habits for yourself, and to thrive in your surroundings and within your own being. So when you're doing all of those things and pornography is out of the equation, it allows you to really see what you're capable of, what you are, and just how you're doing as a person, aside from porn. So yeah, I just, I see I've learned that I'm a more just less reactive, less negative, and less hopeless guy than I thought. So I'm seeing a brighter, more like authentically optimistic
Mm.
side of myself through this.
Was there a moment for you when you realized or thought, you know, I think I'm healing. I think I'm actually recovering.
Yeah. So, and I still have those days, Brant. Like as a year into this program, I still have days where it's like, wow, like, I think the way I think, I play a lot of my memories and thoughts, like I think a lot. So I have like patterns of thoughts to go through. And, in the beginning of the program, I'd go through a thought pattern that would like cause me pain and just kind of force me to shut down and just try to focus on other things or journal. And as time goes by in this program, like I've really allowed myself to let go of a lot of things I held on to in my past. It's interesting how pornography, it almost like pokes the bear in your past traumas and your mistakes that you've made and tricks you into believing like you're still just as bad of a person as you are today, as you were, being a person who allowed themselves to lack the control and the dignity in your, in my life specifically. So, I don't hold on to that shame and regret of my past as much because I've seen myself heal. So, I'm hoping I'm answering his questions correctly. Like, I just see myself like being less holding on to my past a lot less because I see myself letting go and moving forward.
Yeah. Well, speaking of moving forward, how would you describe the vision for your life of what you see moving forward? Like, where's it headed?
Yeah, so I'm a physically active guy. I took a job in an outdoor field where I'm being physically active and am taking care of myself on physical, spiritual, emotional, and intellectual way now that doesn't involve, sinful nature. And my goal really is just to stay motivated and learning in my field. It's to stay actively engaged in the recovery community, to stay actively engaged in the church community that I've been putting a lot of my heart and time into lately, which is I feel like I'm around other people who are, who want to be the best versions of themselves and are building rather than bringing themselves down. So, I just want to continue to put myself in a healthy environment where I can continue to grow and be vulnerable and lean on others while others lean on me. And we give it to God and we grow as a family through through hardships and good times, and we stay together and stay accountable with each other. As far
Yeah.
as relationships, I've seen a new side of myself that I feel like is a healthier fit for a relationship. Right now, I've been single for a while, and I have that part of my life in the Lord's hands. I'm still healing and growing and learning how to be single in a healthy way. So, I'm keeping my heart open to that as well. But right now, I'm just still in a season of growth and healing, light years ahead of where I was last year. So I like to see where that's going.
Yeah. Well, speaking of last year, when you look at the next coming year, what are what are your biggest hopes for the next 12 months? What are your biggest goals for the next 12 months?
Biggest goals for the next 12 months are just to stay active in the program, to maintain my health, my sobriety from pornography and masturbation, to stay active in my hobbies as well. I really enjoy cooking. I enjoy running. I enjoy fly fishing. Just making sure I'm keeping an effort on staying active in those things. To stay active in my reading and journaling. I want to continue to. I go to an adult small group at the church. I plan to stay going to that. Financially, just saving money, being smart with money, and just having as much meaningful connections with the people around me as possible, and keeping my heart open to where God wants me to be, the people He wants to bring into my life, and just being mindful of the way I'm thinking, treating myself, treating others, and just continuing to grow. I feel like I've year one into an addiction is like being free from it is huge, but
Mhm.
it's the beginning of a lifetime. So, my goal is big goal is year two, but with new milestones and just
Yeah.
feeling freedom.
So you looking forward to that next year, 2 years, 3 years, like the next phase of life? What are the habits or systems that you're committed to keeping in place to maintain your growth?
Yeah, definitely. Well, a big one is just organization of my time, making a daily habit of making sure I'm getting to bed at a good time, that I'm keeping my surroundings organized, clean, and just pure, creating a pure, clean, organized environment, and having time to exercise, having time to read, to come to church, and to spend time with friends and family, and be in the outdoors and listen to good music, and just do the things that keep me lighthearted and moving forward. But keeping boundaries too. Making sure I'm setting boundaries with people and thoughts and people in my life that can cause me to become off track.
Yeah. So if you do get off track or you face temptation or you're experiencing resistance, like what are you going to do? What's the plan to fight back against temptation or even just the pull to getting off track?
Yeah, totally. I'm at the part where I get a little motivated by that. I feel like that's like the test of all the work. So I don't fear those moments. I've gone through years of experiencing those moments and at time like in the past I've fallen from those moments and it's built wisdom and strategy and understanding. So, I'm not saying I won't have those moments anymore, but I just, through this program and my past experience, I'm more ready to handle those moments. Big thing that I like to do is just to get out of the house. The majority of my relapses in the past have revolved around like being in the house. So if I'm step one for me is usually, get out of the house. Another thing too that I found very helpful is getting in my journal. Like writing, if I can diffuse my thoughts and like willingness to act on an impulse through writing. So, if I'm fantasizing about something or I'm feeling drawn to like getting on the internet, which, I can't do on my computer, but say if I had access to a computer or whatever, if I was like willing to give in to temptation. Writing down what I'm feeling in that moment and why I want to act on it, how I'm going to benefit from it, and what I'd feel like afterwards, and what Jesus would want me to do in the moment. It's pretty foolproof for me to look at my own writing and like it gives me a direct connection to my heart rather than my head. So, it's a
Mm,
great diffuser. And I know I can call a lot of these guys in the program too. I'm a leader in this program and I don't like, I probably wouldn't reach out to like one of the guys who, a new guy, but like I know that there's like you, Brant, I can reach out to family members, and that's something that like this program really strives to instill into its members is that we can reach out to each other at all, like not at reasonable times. There's always somebody a phone call away. So,
mm,
between getting out of the house, journaling, giving somebody a call, and just praying too. When I find myself fantasizing, it says in the Bible, where the sin is not the fantasy. Like fantasies are going to happen, temptations are going to happen, but it's dwelling on those thoughts and feelings and allowing them to hold power and take control of our actions. And being praying in those moments is a tool of mine as well. So
yeah,
between those things, I've been able to create a lot of friction.
I love it. That's so good. So I got two more questions. They're kind of two sides of the same coin. Last question, well, second to last question is for anybody who's on the beginning stages of a journey of recovering from porn addiction, maybe they've even started off in the program in Revive, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, a couple things. So if somebody's new starting out in this program, one of the first things I'd say to them is you're gonna get out of this program what you put into it. And that's
Mm,
mentioned in the beginning of this program, but it's so true. I've through people I've met in this program and through my own experience with my own journey in this program, it's very difficult to succeed and fully make a change if you're not willing to do all of the things that the program requires you. And there's so many things in this program that, you have to do to create a system that's going to function for you in a way that, allows you to abstain from using pornography and masturbation and to, essentially conquer your surroundings and your thought process and get yourself right with, higher power and yourself. So, it's very, you have to surrender your agenda and your pride and your inability to fully do what the program requires of you. And it's hard. So, I would say this program's gonna require you to be patient. It's gonna require you to be vulnerable, and it's gonna require you to humble yourself and to like really make a change. So yeah, I just, I'd say come at it with the intentions of change is going to be uncomfortable. Like you will feel uncomfortable, and this is a perfect environment to feel uncomfortable because we build off of supporting each other in times of vulnerability. Communication is key. You want to communicate with your group members, you want to communicate with leaders, and you have to, if you're going to be here, you have to really want to be here and be truly ready to quit. Because if you're not, it's going to be even more of a challenge and a setback for you than, trying to do it half-heartedly. So,
Yeah, that's good. Those are all so good. Final question is this. Say someone's considering whether or not to join Revive Your Life. What advice would you have for them?
well, I'd really just kind of go back to, what I said about, if you're ready to, are you really ready to quit? Like I'd ask them what's calling you to want to quit, and do you truly feel like you're ready to quit? Because, as a leader in this program, I want to help anybody and be your advocate and your, lead you to success and the light at the end of the tunnel and stand next to you through your journey. But that requires you to, truly want to quit and be ready for sacrifice and change in your life.
Mhm.
So, question one, are you truly ready to quit? And are you going to be willing to do whatever it takes to make the change in your life? And,
Mhm.
if that's not something you're willing to do, then the next question would be when you feel like that's the case, like let's talk, because that's, that I truly in my heart believe that that's what's required to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Quick follow-up question to that. I know I said last question, but quick follow-up question. It's definitely an additional investment to join the program. Would you say it's worth it?
it's worth every penny. I would have paid more, honestly. I said it, but
Mhm.
I truly feel like having developing a relationship with Jesus, having a group of people who I call friends now and brothers in recovery, that are gonna, some of which I will probably keep in contact with for a lifetime. And just truly being free from this addiction or so far separated from it that I'm a new man, and I see years of recovery ahead of myself because I've created a foundation and a framework that I can adhere to and stay accountable to is priceless. Like that's a life-changing thing that is it's a gift that you can give not only to yourself, but like the ones around you who care about you, who love you, to all the people in your life. It's just, the gift of purity and, integrity and being a light for other men in this battle, that so many men face, is such a, profound gift and, skill to have. So yeah, the price it's worth every penny. It worked.
Awesome.
We'll say it worked.
It
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the testimony you need right there. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for giving your time and just the kind words and everything. Certainly so proud of you, and you've done so much not only in your own journey, but also to help others. And so your story is definitely a huge inspiration.
Thanks, Brant. I appreciate your time too, and you've always been an inspiration to me and so many people. So I thank you and thank the Lord for you, man. You've made this happen. It's a great thing.
You made it happen. You did the change in your life, and God was working. So it's really awesome.